Welcome to my site. Today I'm going to talk about Egypt, and it's stuff you've never would have heard of before. So you might want to open your mind up to what I'm about to say. You don't have to believe it, of course, but you need to forget everything you've been told or thought you knew about Egypt, and sit back and listen and just see what you think. If you're interested in Egypt, you'll find it quite fascinating. I mean, I could do 1,000 of these, interpret the whole thing, but it's a lot of work, you know. But I just wanted to share this because it's something I came across. So I tend to do videos when I find a bit of information. I'll try and put a video up regarding it. But it's about the three pyramids in Cairo. We have Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, however they pronounce it. And specifically it's about Khufu today. Pyramid of the Moon. I suppose, I don't think anyone knows it's dedicated to the moon. But I'm about to show you how and why. You can probably see half of it there yourself. But anyway, Khufu is dedicated to the moon. It represents a special time of the year when the moon is furthest north. This time is at September spring, the equinox. Spring tides, king tides, all came from this period because tides come from this event originally. Over 3 days, the tides are up there at the maximum. They go right out and come right in for 3 days. We have the rising sea, the rising sun, and the rising of Orion's belt. Now, all this stuff is connected to all religions. Specifically what the Egyptians have left us, but I can associate it with Christianity. So that's what I'm doing here. So we're going to 3 realms here. Egyptian history, what the Christians have written, and something you're probably going to glaze over with is how it explains our earth being flat. But we'll get to that later, but we'll just go through this. You'll find it interesting if you just hang in there. Right. So Orion's belt starts probably back in Egypt at the time of the year, September, early September. Orion's belt will be on the horizon. Certainly is down here south, but all this is based on Egypt. I'm not going to say Egyptology because Egyptology is put your crook. It's just not what they say it is. They are miles away from reality. This is all divine stuff that you do not know about, and they do not tell you because they don't know. Everything they've left us, the Egyptians, is about this life, the life you're in, not the afterlife and what happens after they die physically. It's all about now, and it's all about waking something up, and it's all related to consciousness, human spirit. So allow me to go on. Right, so Orion's belt. On the spiritual side we have the rising chakras, means energy, based on frequencies. Everything in our realm is all based on frequencies. Everything in our world survives on frequencies. Turn the frequencies off, everything just disappears. We live in one massive energy field. It's a magnetic energy field. Electromagnetism. Electricity and magnetism. So these 3 days, the tides are at their maximum. Okay, Khufu's pyramid is 138 meters tall. That's to the flat part. There's the flat part. Always was. It never had a capstone. It was never that tall, 146.7. I'm going to tell you later. 138 meters times 32 or times 3220 or times 42,200 doesn't mean anything. Means nothing. Just 60,000, 600,000. And we hear from Graham Hancock that it represents something regarding our Earth, but it doesn't really. I'm not putting the guy down. I admire what he's done. I like the guy, but it's just not right. For a starter, there's no aliens and there's no out there in space. But hang in there. I'm going to explain it all to you. So, pyramid is 138.8 meters. They've got that right. That's one thing I can give science credit to. That is the height. We take this height, look at it. You times it by the angle. They say the pitch of the Great Pyramid, this Khufu, is 52 degrees or 51.5 degrees. But some say 52, some say 51.5, but it's 51.85 between them. Because this is what happens. You times that height by that angle, you get a 72. These are divine numbers, or multiples of 9. I'll bet anything. That's what it is. 72, because 72 comes into it later on. The base is 230 meters. 0.34. I haven't figured anything out with this in relation to anything, but if you went another meter or 1200, that's 600 each end, times it by 332, comes to a nice 100,000. Probably means nothing. But if you stick to their measurements, it comes to 440 times 440 cubes, Egyptian cubits. Now this is another thing. These things were built to precision, to the last few inches. The cardinal directions, everything. These people were brilliant, way beyond our imagination. Yet nowadays, these men today are so stupid, they want you to think that they were dumb enough to use this as a rule. This is a measurement from there to there. Like we all have the same measurement. So we've got this masterpiece, yet they were dumb enough to use that as a measurement. Well, everything's in meters because it all adds up. I don't know where they came up with cubits because nothing works with cubits. Like I said, what I'm going to tell you is a bit out there. You've got to be you've got to be thinking on the right hand side of your brain. And this all adds up. Cubits, Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark, that's a story. The Bible is allegory. It's all in allegory form. There's even parts in the Bible that tell you it is. Cubits, you can't measure the ark in cubits. The ark is actually in the centre of your brain. That concerns the flood. It's fluid in your brain. I could go into it in a lot of my other videos, but it's to do with that. And obviously there's no cubit involved with measuring the centre of your brain. It just continues on like that. Nothing. They have nothing right. Trust me. So that officially means nothing. The 432. This is Earth's resonating frequency. 432 hertz. This is why Graham Hancock thought it meant something, but it doesn't seem to mean anything to me at all. So we take 360 degrees if we take a ball around flat Earth. let's take a flat earth, 360 degrees circle. A sidereal month is 27.31 days. That's the moon cycle. It's not from full moon to full moon. Full moon to full moon is a Sidonic month. This is in relation to the backdrop of the stars. It's the shape the moon will take in the sky, the pattern over a month. So that's it there. So 360 divided by those days equals this, 13.18. Same digits, but it's different, isn't it? We'll come back to that. On September the 5th, 2017, the moon was in Pisces at 3 degrees 30. That was on the 5th. On the 6th was the full moon. And that was at 13:52, they tell us. On the 7th, it was at 29.59. I'm saying that 1318 was a divine moment. And everything I'm talking about here is a divine moment in history, what all religion's about. And it's September. September, the full moon. On the 6th day, which is the 6th day of creation, and he rested on the 7th. It's all to do with this. So that is where the moon was, in Pisces. Pisces the fish. Pisces the fish, and it's connected to this point here. What's this sign here? There and there with the connection. Same thing, it's the same, it's all to do with the same thing. Okay, so I will say 13.8 was the exact time of the event. The moon is delayed from the sun 1/72th per day. In decimals, that is, look at these numbers again. Now times that by 360 degrees, we get 5 full days. Now this is the story the Egyptians tell us. These are the 5 extra days added onto the 360. But these are the 5 holy days. The 5 holy days that the moon was allowed to give birth. The mother was allowed to give birth. This is spiritual rebirth to a man here on earth. As above, so below. Up there we have the sun and the mother. Sorry. The sun is the father, the moon is the mother, and the sun, the child, being Venus or Mercury. That's the trilogy up there. The Trinity. So, and these 5 days are between the 6th of September and the 10th of September. It's spelled out right through the Egyptian myths. These are the holy days. So those 5 days are holy days where the moon goes into the sun and there's a solar eclipse on one of those days. Not actually one of those days. The solar eclipse is before. It's the 17 days before. There's the 17 days. This is the full moon. So 17 days before was the solar eclipse. And I'm basing all this, I can associate all this to the 2017 full solar eclipse, the Great American Solar Eclipse, on the 21st of August. 17 days later was the full moon in Pisces, 13.18 degrees. So Thoth told us about this. He won the 5 days for the moon to give birth. And when the solar eclipse happens at this time, this is the birth. This birth represents man's awakening. This is the Jesus story, the ultimate prophet, Jesus, or a king. In Egypt they are kings, sometimes called pharaohs, but they're kings. They come out as very wise men. Okay, so there. When there is a full moon in Pisces, 17 days after the full solar eclipse, I'm working on this date. This is when the sun is between Virgin Mary, Virgo, and the lion, Leo. This is between, this is the solar eclipse on the 21st of August, between constellations. Now, between constellations is quite important because we've got to come over here, and I've got to explain this now. In the night sky, there's 2 rotations. Science will not want you to believe that, but anybody with a good camera can get up and see there's a gap between the rotations. You'll see stars in a straight line coming through here, faint ones, but the 2 rotations, they're separated by a gap. This is Polaris, and this is Sigma Octantis. So looking down on Earth, it looks like this. This is the Polaris rotation over centre north, and then we have these rotations that go around the south, where we see Sigma Octantis. I hope I haven't lost you yet. But between these 2 rotations, there's a gap here. This gap, see this gap? That represents between the constellations. It's a holy place. And this holy place here is where Orion's belt comes through. It comes through this gap. Imagine these 2. There's the gap. Orion's belt is seen on the horizon, and it starts to come through at this divine moment in time. That's our Earth, looking down on it. This is what it looks like if I slice it through the guts, and you're looking through one half, like a slice of donut in half. See that and that? That's the centre. That's the centre north there, and that's considered as heaven. There's a centre north vortex, a rotating vortex, and in the centre sits our sun, right there. Stay with me. So 172 comes to that. You can times it by that, you get your 5 days, so it makes it 365 days. Thoth won one for the moon, so she could give birth on these 5 holy days, 6th to the 10th. I won't go into that, but it's all in Egypt. Egyptians tell us about it. When there is a full moon in Pisces, 17 days after the full solar eclipse. This is when the sun is between Virgo and Mary, we've said all that. This is where the Sphinx is looking. The Sphinx in Egypt is looking directly at that space, that gap, at that time of the year, September the 6th. Everything is designed to precision. They're not stupid enough to think use that as a measurement. They knew what they're doing. It's us that are dumb. We're ignorant and we're egotistical. Very wise people back then. The Sphinx always had a man's head and a lion's body. This moment in time represents the dawn of man. Man's awakening. The sun rising. It's right through Christianity. S-U-N or S-O-N. It's about man down here because we have a sun. We have a sun in the centre of our brain. That's man's sun. This is Earth's sun up here. One we see above the sky. It's Earth's sun. As above, so below. We are down here. When we get woken up, we are the son of man because our sun is woken up. The pineal gland is woken up. Man's enlightenment, taming the lion. His right brain connecting to his left, because we survive mainly on our left brain. Left, we're born using our left brain. Once the pineal gland wakes up, you start using your right brain. See, there's intelligent people use their left brain and think they know everything. And most people think they do. But not until they use this side of the brain do they wake up and realise that meant nothing. So, he now sits on the right hand side of God. That's using your right side of the brain. That's what it means. Man's spiritual and physical world combine into a singularity, coming together. And this is below, this is us, And now it's representing above, the skies, the connecting of these two. So the bridge there is told right through Egypt myths. It's all about this. Now this Polaris represents heaven up here. It's not attached to the ground. This vortex supports it, but it's not theoretically attached to the ground. Our southern rotation is. This represents Lower Egypt. Our chakras, our lower chakras, where we survive mainly. But this, we need to attach this to this. And this divine moment is when it happens. So there's the equator. It's a tropic region. It comes through the equator there. At this divine moment, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. These two arcs here actually separate. They separate in these 3 tidal movement days, slightly. And this is when the Orion belt starts flowing through there. We can see it now, flowing through that gap. They're dead straight lines. Otherwise the rest is all arched. That's how the sky works. It moves, it arcs out from the centre, down to the tropics. Down, and then comes back up out the south. Comes up, goes down and winds back up to the north. The magnetic fields do not flow from the south to the north. That is absolute rubbish. Up here they all appear to, because it's very strong magnetic field up here. They reduce as they come down here. Earth is negative. Very weak magnetic field down here. But it's the opposite in the magnetic field. Strong, weak, north, south, positive, negative. Back here. The dawn of man, the right hand side of the brain, sits on the right. Man's spiritual and physical is coming together. They say the pitch, the slope of the Khufu is 551 degrees. 585 I'm saying. Okay? So you times it by those numbers again, look. We come to 72. 72 again. 72. Divine numbers, multiples of 9. Tesla said 369, if you only knew the magnificence of 369, then you would have the keys to the universe. 3, 6 and 9. And they are represented in the Bible that even the scholars, theologists don't understand what the time, a time and a half mean. Or even thrice. I'll get into that later. Now, hundreds of years they've never figured that out. And some say the pitch is 52, so, you know, it's pretty good. That's what it is. 72 times 360 is 2,592. That's the great year of the precession of the equinoxes. So that divided by 12 will give you the length of the time period of a constellation. We're in Pisces at the moment, moving into Aquarius. The length of each constellation period. They say the volume of the pyramid is 2583. But you add 8.8 more cubes to it, and we have that number. I thought that was interesting. Might not mean anything, but anyway. So we come up here. 3 days the tides move out maximum. Now, the Egypt mythologies have Thoth or Hermes coming out of here. He was the man, the wise man, the king. A man's been enlightened, and he was considered to be Thoth or Hermes back in the day. And Trismegistus to Asclepius, the book, the story. Trismegistus represents the Trinity. Trismegistus, look, Trinity. Asclepius, eclipse. Trinity in the eclipse. Sun, the moon, and Mercury. Mercury retrogrades into the moon at the same time as the full solar eclipse. This is what creates solar eclipses. It's not the moon hitting, crossing the ecliptic with the sun. No, it's more than that, because the moon actually goes into the sun every month. It goes in because it winds out and winds back in, and the sun catches up to it again, because the moon is 1/72th per day retarded behind the sun. And it's not until the sun laps it again is when the moon weakens and winds into the sun. It comes back in and sits into the sun. Sits in the sun for 2.2 days, and then comes out again as a new moon. It's when you see the crescent. In a solar eclipse, we see in an exact time, the solar eclipse, not exact time, but the solar eclipse is over and done with in an hour and a half. Within an hour and a half. There's a third entity. Like I'm saying, the moon sits in the sun for 2.2 days. Solar eclipse just comes over the sun in 1.5 hours. All over and done with. And this all goes back to the Egyptians spell it all out. It's a lot more to what I've got here, that's for sure. It's related to Anubis, the black dog, blackness. It's related to the flood, because it's the flood of smoke, the black stuff that comes out of the vacuum of space, they call it. There's a vacuum and it's black, and that black comes over, it gets released, it floods the elliptic or whatever, and somehow I've just got to work out exactly how it's forming the same shape as the sun. But it's all chemical reactions. It's chemical. Well, I think what they've done is the chemical reaction has altered the sun's makeup, which made the moon's makeup. So